Ava, my sister, was what she called a child of destiny. Her clients were all influential figures, people ordinary individuals could never hope to approach. To achieve a leap in social class, she wanted to borrow money for plastic surgery. I knew the pitfalls of such a path. Social climbing was never guaranteed, and it could plunge her into colossal debt. Under my persistent advice, she came to her senses, abandoned her destiny, work, and found a stable office job. But then she watched her former colleagues, thanks to their enhanced beauty, marry into wealth and prestige. She, meanwhile, remained single and alone. Ava went mad. She blamed me for everything. She drugged me, tied me up in a small, illicit clinic, and performed plastic surgery on me herself. The surgery failed. I died on that table. If you hadn't stopped me from getting surgery, if you hadn't convinced me to quit my job, I would have married into a wealthy family by now. You ruined my happiness, Lucy. Again. I opened my eyes, finding myself back on the exact day Ava wanted to borrow money. Before I could even savor the joy of being alive again, Ava stormed out of her room, laughing maniacally. She kept muttering about being a child of destiny, then glared at me, her eyes burning with fierce hatred. I'm warning you, Lucy. Whatever I do, it has nothing to do with you. You already destroyed my future. My mind reeled, my hands unconsciously clenching. But the moment I looked up, I masked the deep-seated resentment in my eyes, replacing it with an innocent expression. Ava, I don't understand what you're talking about. Her eyes darted around as if suddenly realizing something. So, I'm the only one who came back. Good, then I can relax. Finishing her thought, she grabbed her phone, calling someone, her voice dripping with eagerness. Who introduced you to that small clinic? The one that can turn you into a fairy? Money is no object as long as my dream comes true. It'll definitely be worth your while. I rose from the sofa. Ava watched me nervously, as if one word from me would make her flee. But I pretended not to hear, walking past her directly into my room. That afternoon, she was on the phone nonstop. By dinner, she couldn't wait any longer and immediately declared her grand decision to our parents. Mom, Dad, I've decided to get plastic surgery. I don't have enough money, so could you help me out? Ava's face twitched with excitement, her eyes filled with fierce determination. Our parents were stunned, their chopsticks clattered to the table. What? You're perfectly fine, why would you want surgery? Did someone say something to you? In their eyes, Ava was the most beautiful child. Surgery hurts so much, darling. How could we bear to let you suffer? Mother instinctively thought Ava had been wronged somehow, her questioning gaze turning to me. I shook my head innocently, choosing to remain silent, neither speaking nor intervening. Mother was so angry she shot me a glare as sharp as a knife. Useless, you don't know anything. I lowered my head, eating my rice, secretly calculating when I could leave this house. I waited for Ava to sink deeper into the mire, her debts piling higher and higher. I wanted to see if, at that point, our parents would sell everything they owned to pay off her debts. In my previous life, Ava had truly become a child of destiny, serving only the kind of magnates ordinary people couldn't even dream of meeting. She was enchanted by the allure of glamour, wanting to use her beauty to climb the social ladder. But her colleagues constantly brainwashed her. With just that face, you think you can marry into a wealthy family? They wouldn't even hire you as a maid. If you looked like Zishi, men would be lining up all the way to Paris. Many of our colleagues, after plastic surgery, married into rich families in no time. It's just a bit expensive, that's all. Under the constant prodding of her colleagues, Ava hatched the idea of borrowing money for plastic surgery. Before going, she even asked for my opinion, wondering if it was trustworthy. I quickly searched online for information about the clinic she mentioned, but found absolutely nothing. It doesn't seem right, I told her my suspicions. Luckily, she listened to my advice, abandoned the idea in time, and also quit that diviner job, finding a stable office job from morning till evening. But then she saw her former colleagues, thanks to their plastic surgery, marry into wealth, while she remained lonely and single. Her eyes burned with envy. Mocked and ridiculed by her colleagues, she gradually lost her sanity. In her heart, I was the one who had destroyed her path to the upper class. She drugged me, tied me up, and took me to a shady, underground aesthetic clinic. She performed surgery on me herself. If you hadn't stopped me from getting surgery, if you hadn't forced me to give up my job, I would have married into a wealthy family by now. You ruined my happiness, Lucy. That dark room was filled with the pungent smell of disinfectant and the chilling sounds of scalpels cutting through flesh. Every second felt like an eternity of torture in hell. I would never forget it. She had clearly asked for my opinion. She had clearly been unsure herself, just looking for an excuse to back down. But she deliberately ignored that truth, unleashing all her rage and disappointment onto me. Lucy, what are you spacing out about now? A sharp poke to my elbow made me drop the bowl of rice I was holding onto the table. Looking up, I saw my sister, Ava, who had pushed me. Her eyes narrowed in displeasure. Are you even listening to me? Hand over your entire salary now. So, it was my salary she was after. Since university, I had never spent a single cent of my family's money. All my living expenses came from part-time jobs and scholarships. After graduation, I used half my salary to help the family and save the rest. Ava, though, was excellent at calculations. I glanced at our parents. They showed no reaction, clearly silently approving of Ava's actions. She assumed I would refuse, ready to explode in anger. But I slowly opened my mouth. All right, if you want to get surgery, go ahead. I feigned helplessness. My money won't even make a dent, though. Ava scoffed, dismissing me. You don't need to worry about that. I have my own ways. Your ways are probably high-interest loans, right? If so, then of course I'll give you a hand. When I was first reborn, I hated Ava so much I wanted to tear her limb from limb to make her experience the same pain I suffered in my previous life. But now, I'd thought it through. She wanted to be a rich wife, wanted to reach the pinnacle of success, right? Then I would help her fulfill that wish so she could witness her dream about to come true, only to crumble right before her eyes. I'll transfer the money to you right away. Give me your phone. Ava, without a hint of suspicion, unlocked her phone and handed it to me. I quickly navigated, opening all the online loan applications, Jidebao, Matuan, Zaioyu, Moch. Messages announcing loan disbursements kept pouring in, making Ava beam, unable to close her mouth. Where did you get so much money? But as she saw each debt message, the smile on her face instantly froze. You dared to open online loans for me? Her voice rose to a piercing shriek. I chuckled. Is this all? Let me introduce you to a few more bank managers. They're all my old classmates. Borrow with peace of mind. I patted her shoulder, a knowing smirk on my face. Before, you blamed me for stopping you from borrowing money for surgery. This time, I'm correcting my mistake, doing my best to help you achieve your dream. Seeing she still hadn't reacted, I feigned impatience. Still not enough? Then let me introduce you to a few VIP clients from credit organizations. Ava trembled with rage. Our parents looked at me with deep dissatisfaction. Lucy, you're being absurd. How could you let your sister borrow money so recklessly? I completely lost my appetite. Well then, Mom and Dad, hurry up and take out all your savings. Support her great endeavor. When she becomes successful later, she'll definitely not forget your kindness. At the mention of money, our parents instantly fell silent. I let out a contemptuous laugh. Now I understood everything. No matter what, I would never give Ava money. She had worked for so many years, spent wildly, and never saved a single penny. Every month, not only did she rely on our parents for allowances, but she also asked me for money countless times. But this time, she couldn't wait any longer. The next morning, Ava left with the money from the online loans. Ava sought out her former colleagues at the World shop, asking them to introduce her to the aesthetic clinic. With a trial mindset, she decided to get double eyelid surgery first, as it healed quickly and showed clear results. After just 1 week, her eyes had transformed into large, round, sparkling double eyelids. This success further solidified her faith in plastic surgery. Just one more procedure. After enhancing her beauty, she gained more clients in her line of work. Everyone specifically asked for her. But this revenue was still a drop in the ocean. The aesthetic clinic was incredibly expensive. Just the eyelid surgery cost nearly 50 million Vietnamese dong, roughly $2,000 USD. And according to Ava's plan, she wanted a complete overhaul. The amount needed would be immense. So she came up with another plan. Ava created a personal account on Douyin, China's TikTok equivalent, and began posting a series of videos introducing her diviner profession. Finally, she even dressed in uniform and appeared on camera herself, attracting a significant following. I had to admit, after being reborn, Ava's charisma had intensified, drawing men in with every smile and glance. Slowly, people began asking for the shop's address. Although the world diviner profession wasn't entirely unknown, it remained rather mysterious to many. If it weren't for Ava, I would only know men could go for flower wine, not that they could also smoke flower incense. Most of the inquiries were from men, but some curious girls also asked if the shop was hiring. Ava simultaneously recruited and ran her business. In just 1 month, the commission from the shop alone reached 50 to 60 million VND, roughly $2,000 to 400 USD. With money in hand, she didn't hesitate, immediately getting a nose job, corner eye surgery, and lip fillers to create a smiling mouth. But that still wasn't enough. Lately, every time I returned home from work, I saw Ava in luxury cars, from BMWs to Mercedes. What's more, the men driving her home were never the same. Once, I accidentally ran into Ava. Fearing I would ruin her good fortune, she frantically motioned with her eyes. I pretended not to see her, but secretly snapped photos of every moment. Who knew when they might come in handy? I wasn't idle either. Drawing on my experience from my previous life, I helped my company close several large deals, tripling my monthly salary from 5 million to 15 million VND, roughly $200 to $600 USD. But I told no one, only claiming my salary was around 3.5 million VND, roughly $140 USD, a month. Ava's clients grew in number, and her ambitions didn't stop at BMWs or Mercedes. "My goal is the vast sky and ocean," she'd say. "These are just small fry." The men around her offered gifts and lavish attention, but she never reciprocated their affections. In her eyes, meeting and dining with her was already a great honor. What more could they ask for? She simply didn't care. I looked at her increasingly smug face, only hoping she could persevere a little longer. It seemed she had forgotten that online loans also had to be repaid. As Ava prepared for her third surgery, debt reminder messages from the loan apps flooded in simultaneously. But by then, she had almost completely depleted her money on previous surgeries. How could she possibly repay her debts? When the lenders began threatening to terrorize her contact list and inform all her relatives and friends, she finally panicked. The image of a gentle, pure goddess she had painstakingly built would crumble. If those men knew she was actually just a vain schemer willing to borrow money for beauty, all her efforts would be wasted. Having no other choice, she turned to a bank for a loan, intending to use new debt to pay off the online loans. But because she had borrowed too much, her credit history was categorized as bad debt. All legitimate banks refused her. Cornered, she gritted her teeth and resorted to loan sharks. After her third surgery, tragedy finally struck. This time, she underwent multiple procedures at once, her entire face almost completely rebuilt, coupled with the clinic's use of new technology. The result was a completely sagging face with visibly uneven eyes. Lying in the hospital, Ava went mad. "Didn't you say this was new technology? That there would be no problems? How could it turn out like this?" Upon hearing the news, I immediately rushed to the hospital. As I entered, I saw her screaming and crying, looking utterly pathetic. The aesthetic clinic, clearly not encountering such incidents for the first time, handled it smoothly. "We informed you beforehand, surgery always carries risks. It's clearly stated in the contract, which you signed. Now that there's a problem, who can you blame?" Seeing those thick-skinned, irresponsible people, Ava's fingernails dug into her flesh, drawing blood. "I'll call the police. You people are scammers. This is an illegal clinic." The clinic staff just sneered. "The contract is clear as day. Go ahead and call the police. We're not afraid." They clearly didn't want to take responsibility, but they also didn't want to lose a client. "But don't be so quick, ma'am. If this time failed, we can correct it for you next time." 50% discount, how about that? Ava trembled with anger, looking at her distorted face, almost losing her mind. Yet she didn't dare to push the clinic too hard because she still hoped they would fix her appearance. This failure dealt a heavy blow to her. Initially, she planned to quickly find a golden ticket after a successful surgery, at least someone who could help her pay off all her debts. But now, with this face, let alone dating, she didn't even dare to step out the door. However, another corrective surgery meant another huge sum of money. Having no other choice, Ava began to plead with me. "Lucy, you're my sister. Can you really bear to see me ruined like this?" I stared at her disheveled, sagging face for a few seconds before letting go of my mocking smile. But inwardly, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Reborn a lifetime, and yet Ava still stubbornly believed men would change her fate. Even if her surgery was successful, was she truly certain she would marry into a wealthy family? At best, she'd be a canary in a gilded cage, discarded without a second thought once the novelty wore off. If she knew I was the one who introduced her to the loan sharks, she would surely hate me to death. Seeing her anxious, I acted even more worried. Ava, it's not that I don't want to help you, but my salary is only 3.5 million VND a month, and I have to give half of it to mom and dad. What can I do? My eyes welled up with tears as I skillfully hinted, if only mom and dad would help, that would be great. They definitely have money. A flicker of light appeared in Ava's eyes. She mumbled, "That's right, why didn't I think of that before?" Then she tightly wrapped a mask and sunglasses around herself, covering her face, called a car, and left. Meanwhile, I turned and walked into that aesthetic clinic. The doctor, who had just been arrogant, now had a beaming smile. "The client you introduced has a bit of a temper, but she pays generously. Here, your commission has been transferred to your account." I chuckled faintly. Before Ava came here, I had already met with this clinic. I told them directly, "This is a big client I'm introducing. How you make her willingly fork over the money is your business, but my commission cannot be missing." After all, if someone else was going to make money, wasn't it better for me to benefit? Moreover, Ava's failure this time was actually an accident. Although this clinic was unethical, their professional skill wasn't bad. In just a few months, the commission I received had exceeded 100 million VND, roughly $4,000 USD. Just a little more accumulation, and I'd have enough for a down payment on a small apartment. Today was definitely not a normal day. As soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I heard my parents' panicked cries. "Oh my God, our house has been robbed, all the money in the safe is gone." Ava worked fast indeed. I hurried into the house, only to see belongings scattered everywhere. The corner of my mouth twitched, but I still feigned horror, covering my mouth and screaming, "Mom, Dad, what happened?" My mother's eyes were streaming with tears, her voice trembling. "The thief, he broke into the safe. All the money vanished without a trace." My father's face was dark, his whole body shaking with anger. I glanced around, realizing not only the safe but all the drawers and wardrobe compartments had been rummaged through. My father, his hands trembling, called the police. At this moment, my eyes accidentally fell upon a small piece of paper on the floor. The handwriting was very familiar. "Mom and Dad, I took the money." It was Ava's note. I bent down, picked up the paper, then quickly walked into the bathroom, threw it straight into the toilet, and flushed. The police arrived very quickly. They took photos, collected evidence, and checked the apartment building's security cameras. The conclusion was that it was very likely someone familiar who committed the crime. Our parents sat in front of the surveillance monitor, watching footage of a person, completely covered, sneaking into the house. Immediately, they shouted, "No way, this is definitely a thief. We absolutely don't know them." I stood quietly next to them, instantly recognizing it was Ava, but I said nothing. As the police followed the surveillance cameras, they found Ava standing in front of a 24/7 bank ATM, holding a thick wad of cash. The evidence was undeniable. Many curious passersby had gathered around. I quietly stood in the crowd, feigning curiosity, asking, "Doesn't anyone recognize her? Isn't this the recently famous Child of Destiny? I heard the police are coming to arrest her for that money." Ava was completely covered, so no one recognized her. But just then, my mother suddenly rushed forward, shouting, "No way, this isn't my daughter." She tore off Ava's mask and sunglasses. Ava's distorted, sagging face was exposed. My mother gasped. How could it be you?" She was so shocked she almost lost her voice. Even with her face ruined, she couldn't help but recognize her own daughter. At this moment, my mother screamed in panic, but also just managed to realize something was seriously wrong. Ava had truly fallen into hell. The area was packed with people, and the incident caused a sensation throughout the neighborhood. Ava was caught off guard, momentarily unable to comprehend what was happening, especially when she saw the police standing behind our parents and the crowd's raised phones filming. She finally realized something was amiss, hurriedly covered her face with her hands, but it was too late. Even though our parents kept trying to cover it up, saying it was all a misunderstanding, the rumors spread anyway. After returning home, Ava threw a violent tantrum. She smashed furniture, screaming until her voice was hoarse. I left a note. "Why did you call the police? If this gets out, if everyone knows I stole money from my family, how can I ever marry into a wealthy family? Why do I have such stupid and selfish parents like you? Do you have to ruin me to be satisfied? If this affects my future, I will never forgive either of you." I looked at her deranged appearance, only finding it amusing. Don't talk about marrying into a wealthy family. With that face and reputation, even an ordinary man might not want to marry her. The good news was that the money from the safe was still with Ava. But when our parents opened their mouths to demand the money, she stammered, her face panicked. Money? What money?" "The money you took from the safe. It's all our life savings, our retirement money." My father's face hardened, his voice full of authority. "Return it immediately." Ava couldn't hide it anymore and confessed honestly. I used that money to pay off the loan sharks. The money's gone." My mother almost fainted. Fortunately, I quickly supported her and pressed her philtrum to revive her. "Mom, why faint? Ava ended up like this. You and Dad are partly responsible, too. Your precious daughter can now bear the consequences herself." My mother slowly regained consciousness. Ava, however, sneered contemptuously. "It's only 200 million. When I marry into a wealthy family, I'll give you 2 billion. Seeing our parents truly angry, she softened her tone. "Mom and Dad, please trust me. I'm different from others." Then she secretly glanced at me and waved our parents into her room. She definitely had something she wanted to hide from me. When they came out, our parents were no longer angry. In fact, they were even excited. "The money's gone, so be it. Let's consider it done." My father sighed, with no intention of pursuing it further. Ava looked at me provocatively, while I just found it funny. What mind did she have left to provoke me? She should be thinking about how she'd face public opinion online tomorrow. As I was deep in thought, Ava suddenly approached, lowering her voice to ask me, "I finally understand it's you, isn't it? You were also reborn." I gasped, looking up at her, my heart pounding. She had guessed it. I had underestimated Ava's intelligence. No matter what, I couldn't admit it. "What are you talking about? I don't understand anything." Ava looked at me with meaningful eyes, the corner of her mouth curling up. "Don't pretend anymore. Didn't you also want to use me to climb to the top?" She was scaring herself, while I clenched my teeth, steadfastly denying it. After all, without proof, she couldn't do anything to me. After talking with our parents, Ava successfully extracted another 500 million VND from them. It seemed our parents were determined to bet everything on her, as if this was their last chance to change their lives. With money in hand, Ava immediately went to get her face redone. This time, she was smarter, not returning to the old place, but choosing a seemingly more reputable clinic. Meanwhile, outside, a storm had erupted. The incident of her arrest and public exposure had shaken social media. Rumors flew everywhere. Some said Ava stole money from a tycoon and was caught red-handed by his legitimate wife. Others claimed she was supporting young gigolos, working hard to provide for them. I quietly posted the photos I had secretly taken. Pictures of Ava leaving work every day in a different man's car immediately went viral. Her diviner profession was exposed to the public. Public opinion exploded. While the whole world was in an uproar, Ava was completely unaware, because at this moment, she was in the operating room, awaiting her rebirth. This time, the surgery was extremely complex. Besides facial reconstruction, she also requested breast augmentation. This time, Ava decided to get a Brazilian butt lift and full-body liposuction. It was a major surgery. Even legitimate aesthetic clinics might not dare to take it on. Yet, I didn't know how she found her connections, but they were all unreliable places. I knew why she was so eager to get surgery again. According to rumors, a prominent figure would be visiting the shop next month. This was her chance to change her life. How could she let anyone else snatch it away? After surgery, Ava recovered quite well. But as soon as she was discharged, she immediately saw the rampant rumors online. Enraged, she smashed her phone. She didn't dare to explain herself. Even the men who had pursued her before messaged her, demanding answers. No one wanted to spend money and effort only to be played, or worse, become a mere backup. For the past few days, those men had gathered downstairs at our house, waiting for an answer. When Ava returned from the hospital, they immediately surrounded her. I quickly hid behind our parents, silently counting the number of men, then took a sharp breath. More than 10 men. Ava was truly a master of time management. How did she manage all those boyfriends? I glanced at her. Even through the bandages, her ashen face was clearly visible. She had no idea the situation was this serious. The men clamored, questioning her. Ava, you owe us an explanation, don't you? Didn't you say you only loved me, so what are they? The atmosphere was incredibly tense, showing signs of imminent violence. I quickly retreated a few steps, staying clear of the danger zone. Ava sensed the peril, but because of her recent surgery, even opening her mouth was agonizing. Finally, she gave up, choosing to brazenly deny everything. What nonsense are you talking about? You all pursued me yourselves. I never agreed to date anyone. How is this related to me? This statement ignited their fury. You slut, who do you think you are? Today I'm going to teach you a lesson. A fight truly broke out. I stood far away, still not forgetting to add fuel to the fire. Hey, don't hit her, my sister is right. Who told you guys to be so foolish as to believe her? Turning to the gossiping aunties nearby, I put on a kind expression. Aunties, please move away quickly. It's not worth getting hurt at your age. Then I retreated a few more steps. It was indeed a chaotic mess. I couldn't even see Ava anymore, only heard her miserable screams. Our parents wanted to intervene, but seeing the chaotic scene, they instinctively turned and fled, abandoning Ava there. The men hit very carefully, avoiding breaking bones, but repeatedly punched and kicked her lower abdomen. After venting their anger, they didn't stop there. They stormed into our house, ransacked everything, and took back the gifts they had given her. This necklace is mine, I'm taking it back. This handbag is also mine, you have no right to keep it. Damn it, how dare you cheat me? This jacket, worth over 10 million VND, how many men have you worn it to meet? Ava gnashed her teeth in fury. I'll call the police. The police arrived very quickly, but remarkably, the men confessed very readily. They all knew Ava wouldn't dare make a big deal out of it. As a result, each only had to pay 10 million VND in compensation, a small sum they didn't care about at all. After a day of chaos, to summarize, Ava got beaten up, but also received over 100 million VND from damages. I had to envy her. There was money only she could earn. But I wondered if she knew the truth. Would she be furious enough to vomit blood? I was the one who intentionally leaked her photos online. I was also the one who secretly used her phone to send those photos to everyone in her contact list. Even though she was beaten, what she endured was still not even a fraction of what I had suffered in my previous life. After that beating, Ava cowered inside the house, not daring to go out. Our parents also gradually changed their attitude, seeming to regret giving her 500 million VND for surgery. But she still didn't give up, continuing to brainwash our parents. Mom and Dad, please trust me. As soon as I recover, I'll quickly achieve my goal. Then, our whole family will move into a big villa. But it all ended the moment she removed her bandages. All her fantasies vanished into thin air. On the day the bandages came off, Ava was filled with anticipation. But what greeted her was a horrifying shock. How did I end up like this? Her collapsing screams echoed from within the room, followed by the sound of smashing objects. Didn't you say you'd turn me into a fairy? Why is my face like a demon? I stood outside, slightly raising an eyebrow, the corner of my mouth curving upwards. Ava, completely insane, rushed out of the room, gripping my shoulders tightly. Lucy, is it you? What trick did you play? I shrugged. This time, it really has nothing to do with me. From the moment you decided to get surgery, I knew this day would come. Besides, did you even bother to look back? How could an aesthetic clinic with no customers possibly turn you into a fairy? I put on an innocent expression, turning to our parents. Mom, Dad, has she gone crazy? My father angrily slapped Ava across the face. I was a fool to believe your lies. Now you've ruined your own life, and you still want to blame your younger sister. Ava clutched her cheek, stunned, looking at father. She clearly couldn't believe he dared to hit her. I hid behind him, looking at her with provocative eyes. All those days I had patiently endured at home, brainwashing our parents against her, were not in vain. Ava's face contorted with rage. She shrieked, "How dare you hit me? When you needed me, you treated me like a treasure, but now that I have no use, you turn your backs on me like this. And Lucy, what's so good about her? It's all because of her, I regret it. I should have killed her from the start." Her eyes, filled with hatred, glared at me, then she turned and ran away. I left home. After that incident, I also moved out. Before I left, my parents cried, clinging to me. "Lucy, are you also going to leave Mom and Dad?" I pulled my suitcase, not bothering to look back. I moved into an apartment provided by my company. From then on, I never went home again, except for holidays. As for Ava, after leaving home, she returned to work at the bar. But everything had changed. Her name was slandered, clients were scarce. The only ones who sought her out were filthy, vulgar, lustful men, but she still didn't give up because she was still waiting for her last chance. She waited, and I waited for her to fail. That day, I went with my boss to meet a partner. Coincidentally, the chosen venue was Ava's bar. Before I arrived, she had sent me a message. "Today, it's over. From now on, you'll always be under my heel." Just from the message, I could imagine her smug, contemptuously arrogant expression. Ava eagerly greeted the important client, but when she saw me walking behind him, her face went pale. How are you here?" I smiled. "Ava, what a coincidence. This is my boss." Ava swayed, took a few steps back, then fell to the ground. No one paid attention. A new employee quickly replaced her in serving the guests. I stepped past her, bent down, and whispered in her ear, "What a shame. I deliberately let you have this opportunity. Why didn't you seize it?" Her eyes widened. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Is it you?" I smiled gently. "Just as you think. I'm the one who made you mistakenly believe you were being noticed by the wealthy. I'm the one who made you think you could soar to the heavens in one step." I covered my mouth, stifling a giggle. Behind me, Ava's screams rang out in utter despair. But she hadn't given up. That night, she secretly drugged my boss. When I returned to the room, my boss had disappeared. My heart sank. Checking the camera, I saw Ava helping him out. What? But in this place, such things happened all the time. No one would suspect her motives. "Ava, you are truly digging your own grave." My boss was indeed very rich in his early 30s, young, successful, and powerful. But he had one fatal flaw: he was the most ruthless womanizer. If my boss woke up and discovered he had been set up, let alone Ava, even my job would be difficult to keep. But I had already intended to resign and study abroad. Thinking of this, I calmed down. Not too fast, not too slow, I called the police. The police checked surveillance cameras around the area. Ava hadn't gone far, but had booked a room in a nearby hotel. Just 30 minutes later, I arrived at the scene with the police. The scene in the room was both unexpected and logical. Ava was completely naked, unconscious on the floor. My boss's eyes were bloodshot, his hands tightly gripping her throat. Fortunately, we arrived in time. Otherwise, the consequences would have been dire. It turned out the drug Ava used was only a mild stimulant. My boss only needed a moment to calm down for its effects to wear off. The most pathetic one was her. Her last desperate attempt failed miserably. She was immediately arrested, but she was only jailed for 3 months, too short to pay for all she had done. 3 months later, I officially submitted my resignation. I was clearly on the verge of being promoted to executive secretary, yet I proactively gave it up. "You're leaving very quickly," my boss said, not blaming me at all. He even approved my resignation immediately, knowing I had contributed a lot to the company. Obtaining my passport, visa, and immigration procedures took a total of 3 months. After Ava was released from prison, I received a call from my mother. Her voice trembled, almost sobbing. "Lucy, save your sister. In prison, she was beaten so badly her face is disfigured. Now she's crazy, forcing mom and dad to give her money to get more surgery." I was slightly surprised. How could she make enemies wherever she went? But by then, I was already on the plane. I calmly replied, "If she wants to get surgery, mom and dad should just give her the money." "But you don't have any money left. Then go borrow some. You have a house, a car, everything. You can mortgage them. When she marries into a wealthy family, she definitely won't treat you badly." My mother was stunned by my answer. On the other end of the line, Ava's deranged screams and the sounds of smashing objects rang out. But that was no longer my concern. I had said it before. I wanted her to see her dream about to come true and then witness it crumble before her eyes. Death was too easy. The plane took off. I turned off my phone, severing all ties with my family. 3 years later, I returned to the country. Everything had changed completely. After I left, Ava had gone completely insane. She borrowed everywhere, wanting more surgery, wanting to be even more beautiful. Debts piled higher and higher until she could no longer pay. The creditors came to collect from my parents. They couldn't stand the harassment and finally declared they were cutting ties with her. With no one to help, no way out, Ava had to sign papers selling herself. From a young lady aspiring to enter a wealthy family, she became a plaything for others to trample on, a new man riding over her every day. Under both physical and mental torment, she gradually went mad. Eventually, she clung to the idea of blaming me for everything, hoping to attract attention, hoping society would look at it. Best of all, that I would be taken for experiments, just like she had once dreamed. But who would believe a madwoman? Besides, I wasn't even in the country anymore. This time, I returned to attend her funeral. Ava was dead. She died a tragic death. She wandered aimlessly on the highway and was hit head-on by a truck. People said that before she died, she was still muttering, "It's okay, I still have a chance to start over." Whether she was reborn or not, I don't know, but in this life, she had lost completely.